Go ahead.
Should I?
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, thank you so much to be here. It's a proud to present my work from the last 5 years. So, as André said before, my thesis name is Digital Transformation and the Brazilian Automotive Industry, Impacts and Critical Success Factors. So this is a summary, is a mirror of my thesis, an introduction, theoretical reference, method, related studies, results, discussion, and then the conclusion. So let's just start with this statement. Visibly, Brazil and the world has become increasingly digital. This statement is very important because due to this statement, the companies are facing a very tricky task to keep up with the technology pace. And then and a continuous adaptation is needed even to survive, even to remain relevant and competitive. So this is linked directly from another statement from Fitzgerald in 2013, the digital imperative. It means companies adopt the new technologies or they will become obsolete. And also, there are a lot of promises, there are a lot of benefits promised with the digital transformation. New markets that will open with a new business model, cost reductions, quality improvement, improvement of productivity, better returns, and so on. In 2020, when I saw this graph, I started to thinking about its amount of money that the companies are spending in digital technologies. This graph is from Statista, and exactly this is the spending on digital technologies until 2025, and it's almost $15 trillion. It's much money, and obviously make us to reflect about the efficiency of these investments to achieve the expected return, or at least the promised return. And when I mention return, not only under financial lens, return on investment, ROI, and so on, but also in the increment of productivity and better process, new business model, client and work satisfaction improvement, the creation of new spin-offs, and so on. Sorry, new spin-offs is a kind of pleonastic, but spin-offs. And when I started to listen and start my research, my bibliographical research, I see this, I saw sort of this productivity, this statement related to the productivity from Solow. This is called the paradox of Solow paradox. And as Robert Solow, as you know, is a famous macroeconomist, and they wrote, you can see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity statistics, it means they at that time he couldn't see all of this promise, all of this beautiful scenario in the computer in terms of productivity. And this started to thinking about maybe there is a new paradox of Solow regards the digital transformation. Let's see, because productivity will return in more times in my thesis. So, two statement was very important to guide my thesis. One from Rogers, digital transformation is not about technology, it's about strategy, and we will see some facts about that, some evidences about that. And from Meira, in the long term, is not to improve margins, is to make sure the company survives. So those statements are consistent in my thesis, in my research about the multiple factors, multiple elements that compound the digital transformation. And then this is not related to digitalize the analogic. It's much more to survive the company. So let's see. How about Brazil? We have a lot of some good examples of digital transformation in the banking, like the new bank that is a completely digital bank, for instance, or in the retail. Magalu is a kind of our Amazon team, and is also the company that make the transition from physical to digital, and now is a phygital company that operates in both dimensions. And how about the industry, the Brazilian industry? Then the Confederação Nacional da Indústria, I can translate like the Industry National Confederation, makes some research in 2022 about the impacts of the adoption of digital transformation. And the results was very interesting. 25% of increase in productivity, 10 to 40% in maintenance cost reduction, and others good expectations. But only 7% of those companies exploit the full potential of digital transformation. On the other hand, the automotive industry is not so poor in this picture. It has the highest level of digital transformation. 88% of the companies use at least one technology from digital transformation in their process. But even in this sector, 80%, only 80% size the full potential. That's the relevance. Why I choose Brazilian automotive industry? There are three reasons. The first is the relevance of the Brazilian automotive industry. From now on, guys, I will call BUY, okay? So the relevance of BUY is explicit in these figures. 2.5 of the GDP, almost 20% of industrial GDP, 26 OEMs, is the sixth largest market in the world, the eighth largest producer in the world. The second reason is the Centro de Informática, the informatics center from UFPE is an Embrapi. Embrapi is an innovation agency here in Brazil. Is an Embrapi unit for technology and automotive system. And myself, I had 11 years experience in this sector. If I count these 5 years, I have more than 15 years experience in this sector. And continues on the relevance, Lopes Albert Rubem Valéria in 2001 published a very interesting article about the digital transformation on automotive industry, and they find that the digital transformation is incrementing profitability, productivity, competitiveness, and so resulting in improve the customer satisfaction. And there are a lot of news about the BUY invest deeply on digital transformation, like GM that implemented a new intelligent assembly line, the Volkswagen that has a cognitive manual based on from the IBM Watson, the IBM's Watson, then the new automated inbound process at Caoa, and the development of virtual products at Stellantis, which is the group of Fiat, Chrysler, Citroën, and so on. But there are two sides to a story. For one side, digital arrives in the dealers. So there's a dealership group that invests they reach 10 million new users through the digital and could convert 55% of their sales digitally. So this is amazing. But at the same time, the Brazilian automotive industry, never recovered from 2020 to 2030, when achieved the top maximum of car placement in Brazil. And when they started to recover in 2019, 2020, all of us know what happened, which was the COVID. So why do this kind of research? First, is from business perspective. There's an urgency due to the wave of digitalization, which causes a kind of Shakespearean dilemma, the companies to be digital or to die. They are from a justification from an academic perspective. Digital transformation has been more commonly addressed by the industry through consultant reports, BCG, Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, and so on, through the academy. And there are few academic studies on the process of digital transformation in Brazil. I will show this in our related works, and even fewer how this phenomenon affects the buy. And from the computer science perspective, why a computer science research should research about digital transformation? First, digital transformation has an important role in the development of new technology, new systems. The interdisciplinary nature of the digital transformation stimulates the collaboration between the fields and then help us to develop a new approach for complex challenges. We develop and play a role in terms of education of future generations regarding key digital competence. And finally, we can help the society confidence in digital systems, even more now with the AI. So, what are my research problems? My research problem is, which are the impacts of digital transformation on the Brazilian automotive industry? But when I was developing my research, I could find a second research problem. Is there a set of critical success factors in the management of digital transformation products which be common in the buy? So consequently, we have the one general objective to analyze the impacts of digital transformation initiatives on the buy, and three specific objectives: identify and qualify these impacts, identify the critical success factors, and then present a model of critical success factor to the buy. So this is one related to the introduction. Let's see the theoretical reference so fast. As you can see in these slides, there are a lot of definitions about the digital transformation. These definitions is only a sample. As Murakamiani has wrote, digital transformation has become an extremely used term, and this has two different effects. The solidification of the relevance of this subject, and then a kind of vulgarization or even a confusion about the concept. To be clear, in this study, we followed two definitions. One from Kane, digital transformations change process and business models to allow organizations to compete more efficient in digital scenario. And then from Gebaye, reinterpreted by Lopes Albert Rubio Valerio, integration of digital technology to improve performance, to increase value for the customer. Also, we could realize that digital transformation in the industry sector is related to the Industry 4.0 principles. Besides the 6 principles of the Industry 4.0, interoperability, service-oriented architect, modularity, virtualization, decentralization, and the real-time, there are 9 enabled technologies that used to be called 9 pillars. But Sturgeon in 2020 wrote that really 4 of these technologies drive the digital economy: the Internet of Things, the cloud computer, the big data, and the new hype, which is the artificial intelligence. Talking about automotive industry value chain, it's divided in 3 major core processes: product development, production, and commercialization. And digital transformation is impacting all of this chain, all of this value chain. We could notice this in the papers, the apps, the articles that you could study. Some constructions like value, ROI, productivity were object of this study. We try to figure out the perceptions from the interviewers. So value in terms of strategic, market, and consumer perspectives, return on investments, basically because due to cultural, structural, political obstacles, there's some sometimes happen on a very incorrectly implementation, and then this frustrated the ROI expected at the beginning of or at the approval process of these projects, and then productivity, which measure the degree of efficiency with which a determined economy used to its resource to produce goods and services. And we have two options, two methods to not only two, but the most famous two methods is the total factor productivity and the labor productivity. In the case of our study, we use the labor productivity, and we will see in the results discussion. So why all of this, and what is related to the digital transformation? Leão and da Silva wrote a very interesting article that combined the combination, the interrelationship between value, ROI, productivity are achieved by digital transformation. And when we coordinate all of this and allocate the resources and adopt those technologies, we can assure that each step of the project is aligned with the company's objects. And then we increase the odds to be success, to achieve the benefits and reduce risks. So talking about success, digital transformation is boosted by a series of critical success factors, if well managed, obviously, and then is capable to influence significantly the project success. So the critical success factors can be used to increase the odds of success. Bhatia and Kumar, for instance, has a very interesting study about critical success factor on automotive industry. But as you can see in this slide, there are a lot of critical success factor. Depends of the author, depends of the report, and as you can see, is a little bit confused, is a little bit fuzzy. So we will, in our study, we try to make it simple to the companies can use this more efficiency. And one of the ways to use these critical success factors is through the implementation models. So the academic literature has been provided a lot of models from ever. Also, there is a kind of congruence between success factors identified by a very important survey about digital transformation from Fujitsu Future Insights in 2018, but those highlight in several academic studies like this Chaneri Hess, Holotiuk Benborn, Bartel Hess, Bhatia Kumar, and Ribas e Teixeira. So this correspondence suggests a kind of path to identify critical elements and to validate this for the buy. So from 1965, with the golden diamond from Liavit in the high left top, through Met et al. In 2015, we arrived at the PPT, which is in several interpretation a kind of evolution from the Liavit diamond triangle. The fact is the PPT models could play a fundamental role in the success of the digital transformation projects because provide an holistic approach that interconnected people, process, and technology. And also, it has been used in the German automotive industry, like Felser and Wien wrote in 2020. So let's see the method applied in this research. In the implementation models, it's important to mention that the PPT was used not only in the German automotive industry by Felser and Wien, but in other articles in different sectors like Spruit and Jajazar, Peterson, Verina and Tico, and Nagli. So the method, we choose for qualitative and descriptive research because we seek to understand and establish the relationship between digital transformation, its impacts, and trying to identify a set of CSF, critical success factors from now on, common to the companies within the buy. We try to apply a multiple case study because to understand similarities and difference between cases under the same phenomenon, and try to produce generalizations for the buy. It was impossible to access internal documents, participant observation, or even confirm most of the data from each company interviewed. So the triangulation was not feasible, and then this is a necessary needed element to characterize a case study. So because of that, make it one step back study. Even we will see, or you already seen similarities with the multiple case study, but we cannot call my study as a multiple case study. So this is the research. Each of these very quickly, but only to show you that part of this design was made in parallel, part was in a series. There's an interesting, which is the Foot in the Door project that I will start to explaining. The Foot in the Door, the Foot in the Door project was a project promoted, requested by Senai here in Brazil, and to the MIT Industrial Performance Center that asked the center involved in this project since the beginning. And we conduct 8 interviews, 2 of them in automotive industries, in OEMs, in automakers, and 1 of them is subject of the current research, obviously with different questionnaire, but it was very interesting as a kind of pilot to first confirm my intention to research this area. Second, to test and mitigate some valid threats. And finally, to test the questionnaire, the protocol, and then make the needed change. So to the bibliographical research, we choose the rapid review instead of a SLR or to make this in a doc. This is because it was a quick method in more restrictive scope that demanded this kind of approach. The rapid review was in the research question, which are the impacts of digital transformation initiatives on the Brazilian automotive. The compound in this string, and then this string was applying Google Scholar, Web of Science, Scopus databases, and we could achieve 14 articles related to the buy. And because of the nature of the automotive industry, which is a global industry, and the few articles identified for buy, we expanded this for the global automotive industry, and we could find more 11 related articles. So the total was 25 articles as a related studies. The interview protocol, we conduct semi-structured interviews that let the interviews entirely free to express, but at the same time we can the researcher can keep the drive. It was compounded by 30 questions with all of these elements, and we choose the C-level area because the characteristics of the strategic characteristics of the digital transformation projects, we decided to focus on the C-level because they are the people in the company that has the strategic vision with this kind of project. So we select the company because of their representative. These 5 companies compound 70% of the market share in buy, and also for a convenience, which is broadly recognized in the literature as a valid strategy. But since the beginning, the confidentiality was a prerequisite for the people consider the interviews, even to make an agenda with me, which was not an easy task. So the interviews, as I mentioned before, sorry, I didn't mention. Also, besides the C-level, we decided to interview three roles. The CIO, which knows every digital transformation in the company, usually, the director of the area impacted by the projects, and then the CFO to provide us a more financial perspective. So we could identify from these five companies these three levels, except one company which the CFO is forbidden to provide interviews. Then we conducted 14 C-levels interviews. We can see the position, the time in company, the time in industry, the time in executive position. As you can see, a lot of experience, a lot of seniority. We conducted through in remotely way, 1 hour per interview. The participant asked to not be recorded, and then we use it a verbatim method. It means wrote by letter, which is summarizing in almost 12,000 words transcribed. So how we treated the data and analyze, we follow the three phases method placed by Strauss and Corby. First, a pre-analysis, and then exploitation of the material, and finally code the data, make the inference interpretation. For coding, we use the content analysis. We base it on content analysis, which allow us to make the conclusion remain grounded on real data. And this kind of technique allow us to categorize answers, highlight ideas, establish patterns, and so on. Those in the table 5 are the list of codes: sponsorship, strategic alignment, critical success factors, positive, negative, operational impacts, and obstacles. And for this, we use the MaxQDA software, very friendly, very useful software. The only weakness is too expensive. I used the free trial for 7 days, and then I repeat in a different, and then I repeat. And finally, as all of the research has, and a threat to validate. We could identify the content validity, which we mitigate through 2 actions: a development of a very robust protocol with a clear definition, and validate this interview protocol and the foot in the door project. And then the internal valid, which we could mitigate choosing companies that represent more than two-thirds of the buy. The external valid, and we could mitigate applying or choosing companies similar between them in the same competitive arena. And finally, the Hawthorne effect, when the interviewer changed their behavior because of the act of interview. The fact that we not recorded maybe could mitigate this threat. Also, all the research has limitation. Then this research was limited by bibliographic study. We try to work around that with a clear definition of the focus, apply the rapid review with the more scope restrict method. We use MaxQDA to recognize and minimize potential bias. We also have limitation about veracity and precision. We could work around that with a very carefully choose of the companies to get a lot of richness information, and then is limited by its scope. And this we could not work around because we make a research option to focus on the C-level instead of middle managers or even the factor floor personnel. So people, that's related studies, only to show the 25, the 2 highlights is related to the automotive, is related, is that all of this is, sorry, This 14 is related to the business automotive industry, and this 11 is related to the global automotive industry. And these two, marked as blue, are the two related studies more similar to my research, but none of them make what I have done. It means interview 70% of one market to identify and qualify impacts, and then try to identify the critical success factor and build a model. So this is, in fact, our contribution. Let's talk about results. So I can guarantee to you guys that I don't recognize my industry. It's completely different from 5 years ago when I came out. It's amazing how digitalized the industry, the automotive industry in Brazil are. And those are some examples of that. In commercial area, paperless technologies, vehicles sensorized to help the dealers, to help the technical assistance, digital sales channels for vehicles, for parts, for services, using to sell, centralize all of these using chatbots, Salesforce integrated with WhatsApp. It's amazing. In the industrial area, focus on reducing manual activities, improving data analysis for decision makers, collaborators connected to the production lines with screen, collaborators trained with augmented reality technology, welding process analyzed in a real-time basis with AI, assembly robotization, digital inventory using drones, digital twins to make new vehicles, automated reply and supply, sensorized. It's amazing. It's really a transformation. I was astonished with all of this. And in the R&D and other areas, a fully virtual prototypes, except crash test, because crash test by regulation should be in a physical model, car as a services, connected vehicles, remote calibration updating, car fleeting testing. It's really, really amazing. So what were the positive impacts? Increment of the productivity due to operational efficient, time and cost reduction, waste reduction, paperless, increment of the customer satisfaction, the profile change of the employees. Like the respondent E13 said, data. So we make a question, we insert a question in the protocol, which was yes or no about some KPIs to identify in the theoretical reference. Those KPIs are in the screen, and then you could see 100% of the respondents say yes for the impact due to the digital transformation on productivity and on the improvement of the internal process, and almost on customer satisfaction and real relationship improvement. Interesting. Almost none of them identify that digital transformation impact the market share. What I can suppose, this is my personal opinion, without any kind of, let's say, theoretical substracts to support me, is because it's like a ticket. It's like we were talking about this, a general purpose technology. It means all of these 5 companies has. So when all of the players in the arena has the same technology, this does not affect the market share. And in the automotive industry, the market share is much more related to the new vehicles, to the newest. So it's a very tricky, interesting that deserve a better study. So the negative impacts: difficult to adapt to the digital technology, frustration with financial goals, resistance to change, loss of qualified people. So the people were trained, the people were experienced, and then lost for the tech companies or consultant companies or for the competence, and the complexity increment. As the respondent E14 said, today people cannot work with digital tools or remove it. And then operational impacts, which was the most coded segment in the research. Change on process, change on mindset, change on culture, change on infrastructure, a lot of high investments on the digital technology, the creation of startups, the spin-offers, some spillovers that came out from this. And this reminds me that Romero et al. In this published that wrote that digital transformation requires a substantial organization restructuration. Obviously, this is much more evidence on that. Which were the barriers? Demonstrate the financial returns. Remember when Lopes Albert mentioned about ROI, the frustration improved the demonstrated financial returns, and a cultural resistance, an analogic mindset. So, as the first respondent said, speak the idiom of the CFO. Then the top management sponsorship, leadership and engagement, high investments, dedicate budget for that, a close monitoring structure, and then a strategic alignment. The penny dropped. Tim, sorry to say that we have a very common sentence here in Brazil, which is like the coin that used in the past to the phone booths. So it's like, I don't know if which coin was, but like the quarter dropped. It means the people understand, finally. The entire company is committed. Digitalization is a basic necessity to survive. And then strategic alignment, unanimity among the executives, ecosystems projects, not only to the company, but with dealers and suppliers. Again, high investments, structure to monitorize the digital process. And this wasn't a peer that I could identify in this research. Rollout from the headquarters, which is very common, expected, but also reversal rollout from Brazil to the headquarters and the other filial. It was a very good surprise and a strategic alignment. And I really like this strong sentence from the respondent and E10, rejecting digitalization is to hurry and not so slow death. Wow. So critical success factors, we could achieve a lot of critical success factors in our interviews. We will decompound this better in the discussion. So to discussion, productivity. As you remind, let me recall that productivity was unanimous in the respondents' perception. But this is one of the only, let's say, one of the few public data that I could identify it. So production rate decreased in Brazil from 22.4 vehicles by employee to 70.7 in the last 5 years, as you can see in the graph. So here is placed in a contradiction. Could be a confirmation of a new solo paradox. I can see 3 possible explanations. First, all new technologies undergo a period of adaptation before impacts the productivity. The traditional indicators is not able to capture the digital transformation, the impact of digital transformation on productivity. And then, as I said before, when I speaking about market share, digital technology might become in general purpose technology, which is permeating all aspects of the society. It means all the companies has digital technologies. The second, we could qualify the impacts in positive, negatives, and operational. Those are the impacts qualified and categorized by one of these 3. And we could, let's say, group it, the critical success factor, based on Holothuke being born in 9 groups. But also, even if it seems for us still very confusing for a kind of model for the company to be followed for the company. So we proposed an enable model, much simpler than 90 critical success factor. In fact, I'm proposing a model, an enabling model, with three elements: strategy, structure, and culture. At the same time, with the same attention, with the same efforts, with the same investments. And then strategic alignment and top management sponsorship as a prerequisites for any company that wants to start to work or continue to work with more odds to success on the digital transformation projects. Finally, our conclusion, digital transformation represents a challenge, but at the same time, and a great opportunity for the Brazilian automotive sector. This research deepened, analyze and qualify the impacts, identify critical success factors, and then propose an enable model for future implementations. Obviously, we have to remind that this was focused on automakers, on automotive assemblers, but this could be applied for auto parts, for dealers, but obviously require further validation. Which were the academics' contributions? We could contribution in categorize it and make an intercorrelated between the impacts, positive, negative, and operational. We could confirm the universality of the two prerequisites for any digital transformation project that tried to be success, which were top management support and strategic alignment. The theoretical scope was widened with the identification and the qualification of the critical success factor. And finally, the development of a unified model for critical success factor that enable projects of digital transformation in the BICE. So the practical contribution, this model can enable critical success factor for digital transformation, and then can serve as a guide for the digitalization journeys. It plays a relevant role in maintaining the competitiveness in the Brazilian industry sector. And then, if we could develop digital skills, the research might influence the future educational and professional policies, then resulting in social contributions. The last slide is the future studies. I propose, because of the acceleration of technology evolution, the pace of technological and longitudinal studies, to adopt these conceptual models as proposed here requires an experiment or a quasi-experiment to demonstrate how effective it is. The search for quantitative data can further enrich our understanding, and then digital transformation. And I'll ask your permission to write letter by word by word. Digital transformation in the automotive industry is a continuous journey, and the present research offers a solid base for future research and practical initiatives aiming to boost the success in a digital area under ongoing evolution. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot, and I'm pleased to discuss with you and answer your questions. Thank you so much.